What is going on? Welcome back, everybody, to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss outliers from society. And today we're going jujitsu centric. And this podcast has moved more and more into jujitsu centric conversations because I believe it is so important and such a valuable tool for men, for women, for young, for old, for all of us. Combat used to be viewed as an essential, as a requirement for coming to age for men, and in many times and many tribal situations and communities where there were no choice, women as well. And we're all about equality these days in the social justice warrior circles, but we forget about it in a lot of different areas in life. And I think jiu-jitsu reminds you, if you're ever in a gym and you spend some time on the mats, reminds you, hey man, there's a lot of strong, capable of women, and women that put themselves through the rigors of challenging themselves and through some of the same processes that men do to become men, essentially, to become strong, confident, bold men. But today specifically, I am talking to you men, and I am 45 years old. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. Starting jiu-jitsu later in life, whether you have any kind of foundation or basis for it from earlier in your life, is not the easiest task. It will certainly teach you about yourself in many ways, who you really are, what you're really capable of. If you will see something very challenging through the ups and downs, trials and tribulations that come with it. And I want to give some advice today to specifically middle-aged men who are finding themselves embracing discomfort and challenging themselves, whether it be in jiu-jitsu or in wrestling or martial arts of any sort, kickboxing, or whether you're just getting back into shape and really putting yourself into the rigors of this last push in your lifetime to become what you can be before the inevitable sands of time catch up with us and we begin a descent, a decline. And for some people, that's going to come earlier than others, and others, we can push that later and later. And I had a conversation this week that it really made me think about this. It was specifically, the question was asked of me why I'm so anti-doping and testosterone or steroids, and I'm not. I'm really not. What I'm anti, and as I said in this conversation, is abuse of them. And I'm somewhat anti pushing it on youth because they are capable of so many things without the assistance. And like I said, I'm middle 40s, and I've only come to realize this about myself utmost in the last few years. As I'm still getting stronger, as I'm still progressing in areas that I hadn't focused on them previously. Any one exercise, as a personal trainer, you can put your clients and you can put yourself through rigorous training regimens for years and neglect things that you just never really put into the equation for one reason or another. Things that you forgot about, things that you didn't prioritize, things that you didn't understand at the time. And then really focus on them later than most other people would imagine that you could and improve. And balance training, and I've talked about this a million times, balance training is one of those things throughout our life. We can consistently and constantly improve our balance and improve our performance under unstable circumstances and in unstable environments. The balance boards, the slack lines, the Bosu balls, all of these tools that people use to train that way, single leg stuff, using elastic bands and weights. We can improve these areas for a long, long time. And whether you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 20 years old, you can improve. But when you're 20 years old and younger, you can improve in so many different areas that if you had time to focus on all of them, you would be quite the specimen if you could find a well-rounded way to approach them all. So to a certain degree, I don't think that assisting yourself is, well, as necessary as a lot of people view it to be in performance, in sports. And there's all kinds of performance-enhancing drugs and performance-enhancing modalities that people are quick to jump on and to focus on, and to be quite honest, I think to lean upon. And we've seen negative consequences time and time again from people that end up abusing these things. And I'm not saying everybody will abuse them. I'm not saying that most people will abuse them if they decide to use some kind of substance or get some assistance. But we've seen the consequences of those that do. And perhaps the temptation to abuse them only comes with the reward of using them. So if we haven't experienced that, perhaps we're not going to be as tempted to continue the cycles and continue the usage until it learns and turns into abuse. Anyways, I'm on a tangent. What I really want to talk about is the ways that we can improve and the ways that we can stay in the fight, so to speak. If you are taking up jiu-jitsu now and you are in middle age, anywhere from 30 to 40, you are going to have some challenges from just the activities and the training that a lot of the younger guys will not have. And these are some of the things that have really worked for me to stay on the mats with these youngsters, stay in the fight, and really consistently train and consistently adapt to new demands and get better and better and better. First and foremost, if you know me, you know I'm probably going to start like a broken record where I always start. Breath work, breath work, breath work. We can all breathe better, and we will perform better if we can breathe better. Look, there's all kinds of different breath work out there. You've heard me a million times by now, if you listen or if you know me, talk about Wim Hof. And Wim Hof is definitely a foundation for my breathwork practice. But there are other modalities. Botego breath, focusing on sinus-only breathing. We are breathing more efficiently if we are breathing through our nose. And I know there's people out there with sleep apnea that are giving me the finger right now. But to be quite honest, even in a sleep apnea patient or person, you can develop a better breathing through your nose if you actually just practice it. Deep rhythmic breathing. It's another thing, just sitting and really focusing on expanding your lungs, expanding your diaphragm, and taking in as much oxygen as you can and as calmly holding it before you release it as deeply as possible and dump as much of the carbon dioxide as possible before you pause and take another breath. It's a process that we don't really think about. We're not really conscious of it. Obviously, you don't have to think about it to breathe, but you do have to think about it to develop a practice to breathe better. This isn't something that you're going to do naturally, especially getting older in life. Your body's going to have plenty of other things to deal with, and it's just going to self-regulate the breath. So focus on breathing. Focus on actually breathing better in your nose, out your nose as much as possible until you see yourself training on the mats calmly with the same breaths. And occasionally, obviously, if you're getting into a scramble or you're having an adrenaline dump situation, you will have to dump. And you will breathe heavier, obviously, if you're in those high performance situations. But you should be utilizing calm, patient breath as much as possible throughout all kinds of different circumstances in life, not just training on the mat. But that would be number one, breath work. Number two, maintain your body. A lot of people really focus on lifting weights to get as strong as possible, but really focus on beach muscles and really don't think about the well-rounded nature that you want to have to carry yourself well into your 50s, 60s, 70s. You need to have balance. You need to have a strong core. You need to be able to move your body and catch your weight in various unstable environments, in various situations. You trip, you fall, you slip on something. You don't want to be breaking a hip at 70, 80 years old. I promise you that. And that's one of the first things that really, really lit the fire under me to get as good a balance as possible and to get as strong joints as possible and core so that I could carry myself well later in life. So maintain your body, stretch, lift. Don't overlift certain things. Try and get a full body program so that you're working out your entire body, not uniformly, but well-rounded, in a well-rounded nature. Recover. Everybody thinks recovery is a little bit different variation. We got the ice bath fascinations right now. We have people that just stretch for the recovery, and whatever your method is, I'm not going to knock it. If you're actually putting a little bit of time and effort into it and you're focusing on it, well, you're probably above the masses percentage, and you're in a small percentile of people that are taking care of themselves as it is. But I humbly recommend foam rolling, getting on the mat, stretching out, hanging from a bar. I love to hang upside down and get a little decompression on my spine. I have boots. There's tables, inversion tables. There's different ways to hang. You can also find a good pull-up bar or build yourself one like I did and change the way you hang. You can put your grips far inside and just let your shoulders lengthen, let your spine lengthen, let your hips dangle, and get that decompression throughout your entire system, which has been very, very beneficial for myself. Not to mention the grip strength that you will develop during this. They say the number one factor of a longevity for men is going to be measuring grip strength. If you have strong grips, you will probably live longer. This is just a fact. You can look up all kinds of different grip strength studies. They're amazing. Next, sleep. Prioritize your sleep. Everybody. I have so many friends and associates that are putting themselves through absolute strenuous exercise programs, eating somewhat well, and then still aren't prioritizing their sleep, which is the most important thing we can do for ourselves for recovery. Sleep well. That's where we actually produce the most testosterone. And you get that nice deep REM sleep and you get recovery every night, you're going to feel much better. You're going to perform much better, and you're going to be a happier person, a happier, healthier person. That's just a fact. Support your body in what we are taking in, not just nutrition, not just what you're eating, but hydrating. So you want to eat clean. You also want to hydrate. You want to make sure you have minerals, and you want to really do your best to stay on top of that so you don't get in deficits. And electrolytes and minerals are one of those things that you can go years and years and years and neglect until you have some issue that arises just from that, which brings your attention to it. Once in my mid-20s, I had TMJ, and I realized that lockjaw, if you don't know what that is, I realized through various research and talking to different holistics that was a mineral deficiency, and I needed to well-roundedly approach what I was putting into my body when I hydrated so that I could sustain, so that I could be a healthy person. Vitamins and minerals are completely, in my opinion, underrated. Now, you're not going to get everything you need out of a pill ever, or out of a little packet you're adding to your water. You need to eat well too and get your actual nutrition right. But if you're going to be hydrated and you're going to be sweating, you're going to feel better if you just supplement in that way. Consistency over intensity. What do I mean by that? I know a lot of people that come in and train once or twice a week and train super hard. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, they are not getting better at the rate that somebody who is consistent is getting better. And I've seen it, and I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting, but I've seen it with people who are at the similar skill level as myself, who were less consistent in the gym, and no matter how hard they would go when they came into the gym, I feel like I progressed at a more rapid rate. Even people that are younger. And that is defying logic in itself. These young guys should be improving quicker. We are all different. And there's, contributing factors like we were talking about, different ways people take care of themselves. But if you have a similar, mental capability, you should kind of be able to improve at the rate of those around you if you're getting into the gym. So focus on consistency over intensity. In my opinion, it's better to go in consistently, and even if you have to scale back what you're putting out as far as energy goes, be there, learn, apply what you're learning, focus on techniques, focus on framing, focus on things that you can do every day. Obviously, you don't want to go to battle with somebody who's twice as your size 7 days a week. That's just not going to be sustainable. There is no pressure. There should be no pressure upon yourself to say yes or to do things that are beyond your capabilities, or to do things that you really don't feel comfortable doing. It's okay to pace yourself. It's okay to understand moderation sometimes is going to be what's best for you for longevity. We have all kinds of games we like to play in jiu-jitsu. Shark tanks and positional sparring that can go for extended amounts of time. And there's just a plethora of ways you can scale back what your output is if you need to. And look, a good instructor and a good training partner is going to understand that you're not always going to be there to go 100% balls to the wall. And you're not always going to be there to kumite or fight to the death, for those that don't know what I'm saying. You're not always going to be there to ask the most out of your body and get into adrenaline-driven warfare on the mats. You're just not always going to be able to do that and sustain yourself. So pace yourself wisely. Say no responsibly. It is okay to say no. It is okay to abstain. It is okay to watch. It is okay to turn down rolls with that spaz. It's a little subject I'm going to hit upon here soon on YouTube or on social media. What is a spaz? There are plenty of people that have ego in the mix of their training all the time. And you'll encounter it far more with younger guys than with older guys, but you will encounter it with some of the older guys as well. They're going in to prove something to themselves. They're going in to assert themselves and prove something as opposed to training more often than not. And it's okay, and it should be okay universally for you to go, you know what? You do you. I don't necessarily need to be part of it. You are on your own in as far as your needs. I'm on my own as far as my needs. We're here to get better. We're here to train. We want to be able to work, continue about our daily life, and show up and be consistent. So say no. It's all good. Say no. Focus on acquiring skills and techniques, utilizing the techniques. So a lot of times you will also see individuals who are absolutely good at one thing or another. And then they'll try to build walls around all of the other stuff. They'll try to do what they're good at. And there's nothing wrong with perfecting things or absolutely utilizing your gifts and what your body is intended to do best. But acquiring new skills, and especially defensively speaking, should be your primary objective, your goal, especially if you're older and look, you're up against the clock to a certain degree. You want to be training when you're 60, 70 years old? You probably need to train like you're 60 or 70 right now. You probably need to develop such a good framework of defense that you're not going to be uncomfortable or in foreign territory ever, especially when you're getting a little bit older. And being able to relax in uncomfortable positions is awesome. It's a tool that you will utilize more often than not when you're getting older. And if you don't have it, well, that's when you're going to probably have injuries, or you're going to face situations where you might be tempted to not show up, not come back, or to take days off that you didn't really want to take off. So focus on acquiring the skill sets, just focusing on the techniques, utilizing them until they are part of your game, part of your own body and who you are. Next, only compete against yourself unless you're in competition. Obviously, we compete to go and see where we're at, to see what we need to work on, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well. But the everyday process of training and the everyday process of sparring isn't a competition. You should be competing with what you were capable of the day before, what you were open to trying, and the experimenting. All of these things should grow as you go. And if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, somebody older, younger, bigger, stronger, leaner, smaller, if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, you're setting yourself up for failure in the first place. Say comparison is the thief of joy. And it absolutely is, unless you are comparing yourself to you in your past, you yesterday. Kaizen. John Danaher talks about this principle, and it's got a lot of traction online. You'll see lots of videos on Kaizen, and it's small increments of improvement every single day. If you can improve yourself every single day, you get a little bit better here, a little bit better there, a little bit better at this technique, a little bit better at that technique. Before you know it, you have gotten loads better just because you're focusing on that 1% per day. Think about that, 1% per day. You're getting better 1% per day. You're absolutely going to see phenomenal results a year down the road, 6 months down the road. So don't compete with other people. Make it a mental exercise to take note of where you are, where you were, and where you want to be, and focus on how you can defeat what you were capable of yesterday, what you were capable of a week ago. One of my training partners and one of my professors was discussing this with me online the other day, talking about good, smart, fundamental ways to train. And that is, instead of going in with the whatever happens, happens mentality, the I'm going to spar today, hopefully I will get some submissions, hopefully I won't be submitted. You go in and you go, however, I am going to get to these positions. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to these positions so that I can experiment in those positions. It's probably not going to work out all the time when you approach it that way. But if you can start to dictate getting to the position, well, you're going to learn things about getting there. And if you can dictate being in that position, you're going to learn things about the position. And if you learn enough about the position, you will certainly learn how to use it to your advantage and get submissions from there, or get sweeps from there, or get a bigger, stronger man into a spot where he cannot progress on you and cannot be offensive on you in those positions. It's a very smart, very underrated way to train. I know there's a lot of people that will watch this and be like, it's jujitsu, it's jujitsu, it's jujitsu. But really, it isn't. Really, all of these things carry over into life, no matter what your hobbies and activities and sports are. You take these same principles, these things, these same hacks, so to speak, these same notes, and you apply them when you're doing what you're going to do. If you're a cyclist, you're going to cycle and you're going to compete against what your mile was yesterday, what your 10-mile time was from yesterday. Keep showing up, being consistent with your cycling. You are going to be a better cycler. You are going to be more comfortable on the bicycle. That's just all there is to it. Every single discipline that you will approach, especially midlife new disciplines, all of these things apply to. You will perform better. You will be better. You will acquire new skill sets, and you will improve your own conditions. I am going to start a YouTube video based upon this right now. Rolling in your 40s. If you're not into jiu-jitsu and you're not on the mats, rolling into your 40s. Doing what you do. Tell me, how do these things affect you? How do they help you out in your own life and your own adventures, your own disciplines, your own workouts, your own trip and adventure of self-mastery? This was episode 42. 42. Rolling in your 40s. I'm Josh Button. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are listening on one of the other platforms, please give me some feedback. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Thank you very much. This was the Josh Button Podcast.